Hello everyone, my name is Brett Vargas, and this is the One Hit Wonder podcast. I'm 20 years old at the College of the University of Missouri St. Louis. In this podcast, I would actually like to cover topics of 3D printing, such as the design process, new 3D printers on the market, new technologies. I actually never have owned a 3D printer due to the prices and my financial situation. However, I have used them and do understand them to a degree that I think people would find very unique. Today, this will be our first episode of the podcast. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be covering a whole series of 3D printing topics that some people would find fun because not everyone has an idea of 3D printers or how they work or anything about them, and I think people can learn that it's not that hard to get into. The first episode of the series, though, however, I'm not going to be covering any of the design process or anything that you have to go through when thinking about designing a part. I'm actually going to name this episode They Can Print Food, and that's because we're going to be covering a 3D printer that actually does print just that, food, and it's actually available on the consumer market, which is something that is relatively new. 3D printing food is not a new concept. We've had it for quite a while. I can remember back in 2009 when I've even heard about the first 3D printer that actually printed food. The first ones used more of a goop-like substance to create something edible. It still had nutrients, it was still providing the general shape of an object, but it wasn't really the object you're trying to eat. Like if I wanted to print a burger, I couldn't actually print a burger. It wasn't a real burger and bun. It was just more like a pseudo-colored goop that like hardened to the shape of a burger and bun. And it wasn't very appetizing to think about. It sounds very gross actually, and I don't know anyone who would actually want to eat it like willingly. I mean, I probably would just to try it because hey, why not? But it would be kind of hard to stomach down for some people, and that would be hard to sell to people. 3D Systems created a printer called the ChefJet. The ChefJet is one of the first consumer-ready 3D printers for food. The printer uses sugar and water to create a hard sugar substance, very similar to icing being left out on your counter overnight, to create objects and candies. The candies can be coated with whatever flavor you want, such as marshmallow or peppermint, which are very common in it. The printer was debuted actually at the Consumer Electronics Show in 2014. The printer was shown off to the public and was actually printing food while there and letting people actually try the food they printed. The printer allows for very intricate shapes that is not actually possible for this. The printer actually printed very intricate shapes that was not possible before this printer was invented. You could not print the type of candies that you had or create them mass-produced very efficiently. However, efficient is relative because it does take time to print and is very slow. However, it allows still the manufacturing of intricate candy nonetheless. The only limit to what this printer can print, according to 3D Systems, is actually what you want to imagine. As long as it's connected and you can build it on software, it can print. The printer is actually fairly cheap considering it is a food 3D printer and relatively small function it provides. 3D Systems debuted the printer at CES before it actually hit the market. They had two printers available after it would hit the market, which would be the ChefJet and the ChefJet Pro. The ChefJet prints in a monotone color with only one head. However, the ChefJet Pro will print with CMYK color choices, if you don't know, is cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and have a multitude of range of color as long as you can fit it within that spectrum, which is actually very large. The ChefJet was to debut under $5,000, while the ChefJet Pro was to be under $10,000, which is not a bad price for a consumer food printer. So, to just summarize what we talked about this episode, I talked about the newest 3D printer that prints actual food, the ChefJet. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm actually going to talk about the design process and the basics of going through that. If you actually are more interested in the topic of the 3D printer, I am going to leave a video down below by Adam Savage's YouTube channel, Tested. They did an interview with one of the engineers there at CES of 2014. Thank you to bensound.com for the use of music found in the podcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a nice day.